The NBA has really transformed over the last century, but sometimes it's the players that make the most drastic changes of all. One player went from baby to beastly. Another changed his whole life just from watching a single game. These are the craziest transformations in NBA history. Number 1. Dennis Rodman. In '86, a young Dennis Rodman was just drafted by the Pistons and looked pretty much the same as any other player. But things were about to change. When Rodman was traded to the Spurs in '93, we got our first glimpse of his new look. Changing to the Spurs started something new for Rodman. For starters, he started dyeing his hair ridiculous colors like green and orange. This kind of stuff was considered strange in the '90s, so Rodman stuck out like a sore thumb. People dogged on him constantly for it, but this was only the beginning. When Rodman joined Michael Jordan and the Bulls in '95, he found something he'd been missing: acceptance. Being a top team, you'd think the Bulls would want to minimize distractions like this, but Chicago welcomed Rodman like family and fully embraced his crazy side. For the first time, Rodman was able to truly be himself, and he put on some even crazier appearances. I'm talking leopard print, zigzags, rainbows, ribbons, logos, and even Scottie Pippen's jersey number. Rodman tried everything. He changed his hair every game, and fans loved it. Rodman took this as the green light and started going all out, including hoop earrings, nose piercings, dresses, fur coats, tattoos, and painted nails. You do you, bro. Some players' changes aren't so warmly welcomed, and that takes us to number 2, Steven Adams. Steven came into the NBA as a pretty normal-looking dude, as long as you consider being 7 foot and 250 pounds normal. No tattoos or crazy haircuts, so he didn't stand out at all. And in 2013, he was drafted to the Thunder and put up a whopping 3.3 points and 4.1 rebounds per game. Yeah, he lacked technique and distinction, so Steven got to work. But he didn't win hearts right away. The dude decided to grow out a mustache that should have been enough to get him banned from being within 100 feet of a school. But a year later, things got even worse. Yikes! I don't know how badly he wanted to look like a creep, but this was certainly a step in that direction. Eventually, though, he transformed from awkward to Aquaman. He continued growing out his hair and beard, bulked up, and tattooed half of his torso. What a glow-up! Now, everyone makes changes for their own reasons, but apparently, our guy claimed that he was simply sick of spending over $60 on a haircut. Seriously? If you just signed a contract worth $100 million, would you be worried about the growing cost of a haircut? You know what you might want to worry about? Subscribing to BallFlix so we can keep growing our channel and producing interesting videos for you to watch. Listen, not everyone glows up so easily. For example, we've got our third entry, Giannis Antetokounmpo. In his first year in the NBA, Giannis stood 6'8" and weighed 190 pounds. That might seem big to some, but that's nothing compared to what he'd become. Before his first game, Giannis admitted, "I'm not ready. I have a lot of work ahead of me, but I'm not afraid. I'll give everything on the court and in the gym, and I'll prove to the Bucks that they made the right choice." Unfortunately, he started out by putting up only 7 points, 4 rebounds, and 2 assists per game. Giannis wasn't even putting up Lonzo Ball numbers. He knew he had some improvements to make, and if he didn't do something fast, his dreams of NBA stardom would fade. So Giannis dedicated everything to the gym. By his second season, he was 6'11" and 217 pounds. What? We were watching him slowly become a monster. But Giannis was held back by a big problem. He loved fast food. If he didn't give up the Big Macs and Baconators, his cholesterol might have gone higher than his jump shot. So he started filling his diet with clean carbs, proteins, fruits, and vegetables, and he dedicated himself to the gym. It took a couple of seasons, but he went from wimp to world class. Giannis put on another 20 plus pounds, and his Achilles grew to 13.5 inches, double the length than that of the average male. Not only that, but his 12-inch hands became known as the biggest in the NBA. That's one scary dude. But sometimes, scary isn't a good thing. We see this in number 4, Chris Andersen. Andersen started out in 2001 in the NBA D-League, but after only 2 games, he became the first ever D-League player called up to the NBA. When he joined the Nuggets, Chris looked pretty average. Okay, he had a few tattoos, but nothing crazy. But in 2004, Chris signed with New Orleans, and here's where things started getting freaky. Chris started putting on 15 tattoos a season, and no one understood why. We also didn't know that Chris was living a secret double life, and in 2006, the league learned the truth. Our guy tested positive for multiple hard drugs and was immediately banned from the NBA for 2 seasons. And with all this free time, Chris had nothing to do but go tattoo crazy. Oh, but now he and his mom have matching tattoos, so that's cool. But people were startled when Chris returned to the Nuggets in 2008. With roughly twice as many tattoos as he had before, this dude looked like a bad Halloween costume. At least Chris knows what he wants, I guess. But Joel Embiid, our number 5, wasn't so decisive. Embiid grew up in Africa, and you could say he was destined for the NBA. By the time he was 13, he was already 6 feet tall. So early on, he was well on his way to becoming a professional, volleyball player? See, in Cameroon, volleyball was the most popular sport. I guess Embiid really didn't have a choice, and because he was super skinny and light, things seemed to fit just right. But everything changed in 2009 when Embiid walked into his living room, turned on the TV, and saw Kobe Bryant in action. It was love at first sight. Embiid happened to watch the 2009 NBA Finals, and he knew from that moment on, basketball was his new passion. But there was still a problem. He didn't know a thing about basketball, and as a 15-year-old at 6'10", he was thin as a rail. Embiid knew he had potential if he just could put the work in. So he practiced on jacked up hoops in Cameroon, but couldn't make a 3 to save his life. Yelling, "Kobe," didn't work either, so Embiid was left with no choice. He turned to the only mentor he had in life, good old YouTube. He retells the story. "I was thinking about how to figure this shooting thing out. So I went to the search box and searched like how to shoot 3-pointers, how to shoot good form. Then a light bulb went off in my head, man, and I typed the magic words, white people shooting 3-pointers. And with that, I finally learned how to shoot." So when he was 16, he had his chance and was spotted at a basketball camp by NBA player Luc Bamute. Luc saw Embiid's size at such a young age and knew he'd have what it takes to become a pro. All he needed to do was put on some size. So Luc relocated him to the United States and helped him gain 55 pounds by the end of high school and another 35 pounds during college, bringing him to 280 pounds and 7 feet tall by the time he was drafted in 2014. The problem was, a lot of that weight was fat, and fat causes injuries. So his initial 2 years were utterly ruined, and he didn't play in a single game for 2 seasons because he ended up getting wounded in training. Embiid realized if he didn't get in shape, he might never play in the NBA again. So after a ton of grinding, Embiid was classified at 7 feet 2, 280 pounds. Except this time, it's all muscle. And enjoying his best season yet, Embiid now looks just as good as he plays. Well, that's all for this video. Some transformations can really change players for the better. But some NBA players really just need to change the way they spend their cash. Here's how some NBA players spend their millions. What are you waiting for?